Hey guys, I'm Big King Taurus, and welcome to my review of Wave 1 Masterverse, He-Man from the Netflix original series Masters of the Universe Revelation. As you can see, He-Man comes packed in a window box that shows off the main figure and all of its accessories. Packaging starts off a rich blue color at the top with runic imagery and gradually fades to black on the bottom with a stone pattern. The front of the box lets us know that the figure has 30 points of articulation and is intended for ages 6 and up. The Masterverse logo adorns the top of the box, while the bottom gives us the Masters of the Universe Revelation logo with He-Man's name underneath. We finish up the front with the Mattel and Netflix logos. The back of the box gives some fantastic artwork of He-Man in action, as well as a bio and cross-sale imagery of the other figures that come in this wave. Additional character artwork can be found on the left side of the box. I really like the artwork showcased on both the back and the side of the box, as it continues the tradition of having great artwork on the packaging going all the way back to the vintage Masters of the Universe line. Here's a closer look at the side art showcasing He-Man in action. On the right side of the box, we get He-Man's name, and below it we get his designation of most powerful man in the universe. If you have all other Wave 1 figures and plan on displaying them in box on your shelf, here's how they look side by side with the name showing. I think this looks pretty good if you're going for a book style display. You can also display them like this with the side art showing. I think this looks very good too. But enough about the box. Let's take this bad boy out and have a closer look at the figure inside. He-Man's accessories include his power sword, his shield, a set of interchangeable hands, but noticeably absent is his battle axe that is usually included with He-Man figures. And for a quick comparison, here we have the shield and the power sword from the Masterverse release, with the Classics power sword and shield to the right, and the half sword and shield from the Masters of the Universe Origins release. Here's He-Man out of the packaging, and I have to say he looks really good. The figure not only manages to capture the likeness of He-Man in the current Revelation series, but it also encompasses what a modern Masters of the Universe figure should be, in my opinion. The exaggerated muscular build, the furry boots and loincloth, the battle harness, the scruffy long blonde hair, and the non-matching wrist bracers. This is He-Man. He comes directly out of the package with a closed right fist for punching poses and an open left hand for his shield to slide over. Like most previous versions of He-Man, his power harness is removable. This time around, his left arm bracer is removable as well right out of the package. While the bracer on his right wrist is a separate piece, it is not removable immediately out of the package. As mentioned before, hands are interchangeable, so you can swap his current hands with the gripping hands from the packaging so he can hold his weapons. Here you can see his removable left arm guard. Because it's removable now, it's a little bit on the bulky side. If you wish, you can display him without it, but I'll keep it on mine as it doesn't hinder any movement. As I said earlier, the right wrist bracer is not removable out of the box. However, you can remove it using a hairdryer to heat it up and loosen it, but you do this at your own risk as it was not meant to do this. However, if you manage to accomplish getting the right wristband off, you can make a decent pre-filmation mini-comics He-Man custom for yourself. If you want to arm He-Man with his shield, it's best to use the open left hand he comes packaged with so that it can slide onto the left arm with ease. You can also use the left gripping hand to hold the shield, but it takes a little more work, and when you remove the shield, the hand will come off with it. And here's He-Man equipped with both his power sword and his shield. And let's take a quick look at the back of the figure. Masterverse He-Man stands at over 7¼ inches tall. And let's take a look at the articulation. Head is on a ball peg, it rotates 360 degrees, looks down, and can look up, but is hindered by the hair. The upper torso feels springy at first, but eventually it feels better. Personally, I think an ab crunch, much like the classics, would have done much better in terms of posability. Shoulders rotate at 360 degrees and can swivel up and down. (360-degree rotation at the biceps. We have a double jointed elbow, but the arm never gets fully straightened out. Hands rotate at 360 degrees at the wrist and swivel. The waist rotates 360 degrees, but the loincloth hinders rotation. Legs can move outwards at the hips, but to straighten the legs back into place, they must be pushed in and upwards due to their design. Unsettling, but eventually you get used to it. Upper legs can rotate 360 degrees. Legs can somewhat kick forward, but that's greatly hampered by the loincloth. Knees are double jointed. Boots rotate 360 degrees at the mid-calf. Ankles pivot front and back and rock side to side. And now I want to take an opportunity to address a couple issues with the figure that get brought up quite often, namely the battle harness lacking an iron cross and his current head sculpt. The main complaints I see about the head sculpt have to do with the facial expression and the size in relation to his body. In my opinion, the size of the head is fine, and in person, it does not look off. This may just be a case where the 2D model of the animation just doesn't translate as well into 3D. As for the facial expression, I think it comes down to preference. While I personally don't take issue with it, I can see why others don't like it. He-Man figures typically have a more serious, aggressive facial expression for the head sculpt, and this deviates quite a bit. Hopefully we will get different head sculpts in later waves, whether they be variants or a refresh of the standard He-Man like they have recently done with Origins He-Man. As for the battle harness, while I like the look of the original Iron Cross on the harness, the H logo does not look too out of place in my opinion. The H logo has been around since the vintage line and was used on most He-Man variants of that time, beginning with Battle Armor He-Man. Mattel has seemed to want to get away from the Iron Cross for a while now, so it makes sense that they would use the H logo as a way to refresh He-Man's look while retaining some familiarity. If the H logo on the harness is still too off-putting, there's ways around it. Here's Masterverse He-Man wearing classic He-Man's power harness. Putting the harness on is easy and it fits very well. Here's He-Man holding the classic's battle axe and power sword. The shield doesn't fit due to the huge bracer on the left arm. The shield can, however, fit over the right arm. If the Classics harness and weapons are not available to you, you can always try the Masters of the Universe Origins, He-Man's weapons and harness. The harness took some time to get on him as it doesn't open in the back, and is meant for Origins figures that split apart at the waist and torso. The harness has to be carefully slid over the legs. Once you get it all the way up, I think it's a great alternative if the H logo harness is not your thing. Here's Masterverse He-Man, with Origins He-Man to the left and Classic He-Man to the right. This is to give you some sense of how each line scales with one another if you wish to display figures together from across the different lines. While Masterverse is Mattel's current collector-oriented Masters of the Universe line, Classic still holds up pretty well in terms of sculpt and paint application. Here's He-Man with the rest of his wave mates from Masterverse Wave 1. And here he is with various other 6-inch scale figures from across other action figure lines. My final thoughts. Masterverse He-Man is a good start to the Masterverse line, but he isn't a perfect figure. The added articulation compared to classics should be a step up, but it immediately lets you down when you take into account that he can't straighten his arms out all the way, his loincloth hinders waist rotation and forward leg movement, and his hips don't go back into place unless you push them in at an awkward angle. The inclusion of swappable hands is great, but it would have been even better if it came with an additional closed left fist and an open right hand to give you more display options. I also would have liked if you would have included his battle axe. If you're already heavily invested in the classics line, you're not missing out on much if you don't get him. However, if you haven't collected classics or origins and are looking to get into a modern Masters of the Universe line, he fits the bill. Despite some of his shortcomings, he is a very posable figure and looks very good and displays very nicely in his package should you decide to keep him mint and sealed box. He's affordable at $19.99 MSRP, and if you can get him at retail. Overall, I would recommend getting him. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up and subscribe, and if you want to know when I post another video, click on the bell to be notified. I'm Big King Taurus, and thank you very much for watching.